Welcome in to another episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. It's David and Swipa, and we're going to bring you the best news from today's slate of NBA games. Y'all, the Charlotte Hornets, they got something good going. Luka Doncic, incredible game versus Utah. And y'all, a finish down to the wire in Portland. This is Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. This is Swipa. This is one of your co-hosts for today's Thursday's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night, here with David Ramil. David, first off, we haven't done a show together in quite some time. But you know what? I actually listen to your show pretty regularly because the Miami Heat, they're one of my guilty pleasures to listen to around the NBA circle.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, but they haven't been a lot of fun to watch lately, and tonight was no different, even though they did wind up snapping a 5-game losing streak.
Look, this is going to be a lot of fun, y'all. Make sure if you're listening to this on the audio side, give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple iTunes. That way more and more people can listen to the great content being made at Locked On NBA. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, share, and subscribe so we can continue growing the platform. All right, the first game that we are going to get into is the Atlanta Hawks versus the Charlotte Hornets, you all. The Charlotte Hornets won 133-126 in a monster game by Jalen Johnson. And also on the other side, you got all the young pups, Con Knuppel. You got a chance to see LaMelo Ball and then Brandon Miller all putting together 20-plus point performances. And to talk more about this game, we got Brad Rollins from Locked On Hawks.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland, the host of the Locked On Hawks podcast. And the Hawks fell in Charlotte on this Thursday evening in the return of Trae Young. Trae played only 20 minutes, kind of rusty to be sure, in particular in the first quarter where he was not quite up to his normal baseline level. But the bigger story in some ways on the court in this one was the Hawks defense, especially in the first half. They allowed 18 three-pointers to the Charlotte Hornets, and that became the difference in the game. Atlanta trailed by as many as 24 points, almost came back, got within one in the closing moments. Jalen Johnson was unbelievable for Atlanta with a career-high 43 points, as was Nickeil Alexander-Walker with 28 off the bench. But in the end, the hole was just too big for the Hawks that they dug early on in this game. In addition to the beginning stretches with the struggle for the Hawks defensively, they had a stretch in the second quarter where their bench unit, where they allowed 29 points in about 5 minutes, and that proved to be a massive, massive difference in this one. No rest for the weary for the Hawks as they go back home to face the Spurs, and the red-hot Spurs, I would say, on Friday evening. But in the meantime, a full breakdown of this game and more on Locked On Hawks.
David, this is actually a really interesting situation because, kind of what we're looking at right now, Charlotte, they're obviously building towards the future, and they're trying to lay the groundwork for having a stable franchise. So when you see Con Knuppel, LaMelo Ball, and you see Brandon Miller play as well as they did today, is this hopeful for Hornets fans that are looking for a great opportunity from their franchise?
It's hard to say. To be honest with you, it feels like they've been building for the future forever. I don't know how this franchise hasn't been building for the future. And I've always mentioned that I think with LaMelo Ball, tying your future to him feels like a risky proposition. Although I've got to admit, tonight he did play some winning basketball, especially down the stretch when Atlanta was closing that lead and trying to steal this game from the Hornets. LaMelo actually played very efficiently down the stretch, hit some big shots, and he was really good tonight. But the future always seems nebulous, and you never know how it's going to shake out. But it does seem like the beginnings of a good core, although I think they might be missing a few pieces here and there. And I'd like to see them do this consistently for a number of seasons before I'm ready to say that the future is bright in Charlotte.
Yeah, but good game. Great job by the Charlotte Hornets. The next game that we have, y'all, the New York Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers, y'all. And this was a phenomenal game. The New York Knicks, your NBA Cup champions, moved to 19-7. And today, Jalen Brunson just continues to add to his own legacy as the clutchest player in the league, possibly. 25 points for him. Mikal Bridges, 22 points. OG Anunoby, 16-point But then off the bench, Kevin, man, goodness gracious, he continues to make play after play after play. Even if the box score doesn't show it, he is just a really, really good player. Then Jordan Clarkson has 18 points off the bench as well. On the other side, Pascal Siakam with 26 points, Andrew Nembhard, 31 points, Benedict Mathurin, 16 points, and then Quentin Jackson with 10. This is a great game. And David, Jalen Brunson, he just continues to do what he does at the end of games to win games for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, it's hard to. I know a lot of buzz about him as an MVP candidate, and certainly he did consideration because he's been great. But he feels like he's just a few notches short of guys like SGA and certainly Nikola Jokic. But he's had a phenomenal season. He's continued to add that. I still have some reservations about the New York Knicks as legitimate title contenders, but they certainly look like the cream of the Eastern Conference, and they've been playing excellent basketball of late. And you know what? That Cup championship, that nice notch on their belt.
Yeah. Well, look, the next game we're going to move to is actually the Brooklyn Nets versus the Miami Heat. Now, obviously, David, you got a chance to watch this game in full. Miami wins 106-95. They go to 15-12, and today, Khalil Ware, 22 points. You get Norman Powell with 24 points. And then, look, they get a win. They obviously continue just to try to add to the winning column. You get 19 points off the bench from Jaime Jaquez Jr. On the other end, Michael Porter Jr. continues his ascent, 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. And then you get from Igor Dimon, 14 points, Nick Claxton, 16 points. But the Heat, they get a win, and they stay in contention to see if they can continue to chase up the playoff standings in the Eastern Conference, David.
I mean, they've looked good over the course of the season, but the 5-game losing streak, they've got obvious questions. And Tyler Hero missing in yet another game due to injury. So incorporating them hasn't been as smooth as you might expect it to, given his scoring prowess. They're still figuring things out. Bam Adebayo was shaky tonight offensively. He did still play very well defensively, doing what he normally does. But this Heat team, I still see them as a playoff contender, but I don't think that they're among the upper teams in the Eastern Conference, although with everything being kind of stuck there, there's so many teams that are in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. Miami's certainly one of them. And if they can figure things out, and you trust that with Eric Spoelstra and Tyler, once he does come back, that they'll figure it out. And Norm Powell playing at an all-star level this season as well. Hyman doing great things off the bench.
So do you, for your Heat, do you foresee a world where could they finish with the home court advantage in the Eastern Conference this year?
Everything is so wide open, man. To be honest with you, you look at the East, and I don't know that any team aside from Detroit and New York have really set themselves apart. Cleveland obviously taking a step back. Boston kind of still in the middle there without Jason Tatum, and you'll see how that shakes out. And so many teams that are just kind of competing. It seems like it's just one team catches fire at just the right moment. It might be enough to secure that home court advantage. And of course, down here in South Florida, everybody's talking about the possibility of trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo anyway. So we'll see how that plays out.
Look, well, OKC, they continue their winning ways, y'all. They win 122-101 versus the lifeless, hapless LA Clippers. And I got to tell y'all, when I was watching this game, there was a period where Ty Lue basically went without a true point guard on the floor. Obviously today, no James Harden. And they just got ripped just consistently. And I was watching, it was a 10-0 run by the OKC Thunder. It was 26-15, and they just got scores off of turnovers repetitively. Kawhi Leonard had 22 points today, but it did not feel like it, especially when the game was in flux. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 32 points in just 3 quarters, again, a +10. And then you get Chet Holmgren with 22 points, J-Dub with 20 points. OKC, y'all, they continue to win. They continue to look great. And the Clippers, they continue to fall to the bottom of the Western Conference.
They had a pretty good point guard on their roster at some point this season. I wonder what happened there. But, that's the story to me. Like, OKC is OKC, and I'm kind of bored of talking about how good they are as they continue to find ways to win. But the Clippers, just so disastrous. They started off the game so hot, dude. They were up 10-2, and then everything just went downhill from there. Of course, OKC wind up eventually taking the lead and then just blowing the doors wide open in the second half. They were incredible as they normally are. But the Clippers, I don't know. I'm as disappointed about this team as can be. And you start to hear more and more stories about the lack of leadership there and everything that went wrong with the Chris Paul situation. And I'm not surprised they are where they are.
Yeah, it's honestly really unfortunate. I feel bad for Clippers fans because they came into the season, David, really hoping that they were going to have a next step to going 7 games last year in the first round. They get more talent. I thought they had the deepest team in the NBA, and everything just falls apart. And David, you could have aspirations to be great, but you just got to be able to put it on the court. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you wonder whether or not Harden and Leonard at this point in their career, whether or not they're playing for anything, if they even still have that competitive spirit. Kawhi still does his thing from time to time. James Harden puts up stats, but they've always felt somewhat empty. And at this point, I just don't see this team doing anything. And you wonder whether or not we're just counting down the days before they start blowing up the roster.
Yeah, man, it sucks because James Harden never missed the playoffs, and this is going to be the first year. And so it's really unfortunate for him, obviously. On the other side, y'all, we got more games to get to, a lot of great action in the NBA today. We got more in the second segment of Locked On NBA Game Night. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Now, whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snack stock, your stack stock, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. Now, there are nights when your team stresses you out. If you're a Clippers fan, DoorDash is absolutely for you. This is your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert. The late-night interviews hit and suddenly you need chips at midnight. DoorDash is built exactly for that. If the group chat says pull up DoorDash, make sure you show up prepared. Snacks, cups, and phone chargers for the friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag in order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever you need to get through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, tracks every dollar, and stay in control of your finances because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Now, Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying and helps you to clean them up quickly. Again, I've shared this many times, y'all. I love subscribing to newspapers. I was subscribed to the Washington Post. That subscription jumped to like $37 a month without me even paying attention to it. And I remember Rocket Money alerted me that this had happened. I made the change. It saved me so much money. So I like how Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending. It keeps you on track without overthinking it. The bill alerts and spending notifications help you catch small things before they turn into big expenses. So take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We'll be back for more here on Locked On NBA Game Night. We're back for segment 2 of Locked On NBA Game Night. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. Also, make sure you're tapping in to Locked On NBA Game Night. Join the Everydayer Club wherever you love getting your favorite team podcast. Locked On is the #1 sports podcast network. You already live with your team every day. Now take it to the next level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and find your show with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. So I'm telling y'all, tap in. Locked On. We're on the way up. So, y'all, next game we got on the ledger is the San Antonio Spurs versus the Washington Wizards. And, y'all, this was a good game for the Spurs. They continue to win. They look like they're about to win 55-plus games this year. We got more we want to hear from Jeff Garcia on the Spurs night today.
Recap to the Spurs win over the Washington Wizards, 119-94. Look, it really wasn't a contest, let's be honest. Well, the Wizards were in it for maybe a half, but in the second half, the Spurs just blew it open. Again, it was a much-needed game for this Spurs team coming off a loss to the Knicks in the Cup Finals. But it was a game home. It was good, at least for one night. And if anything, it helped some players that don't get a lot of burn, some run on the court. So, yeah, when you're blowing out a team by 26, yeah, it was pretty much smooth sailing for the San Antonio Spurs. So what stood out for me, once again, Victor Wembanyama on a minutes restriction coming off the bench for the third straight game. He finished with 15 points and 8 rebounds, again, off the bench, but again, not really needed. This game was well in the Spurs' hands. And another reason why they kept him on the bench, minutes restriction, because they got a game tomorrow night in Atlanta, back-to-back. It's a tougher team, Atlanta, so preserve the big man for tomorrow. All right, so that stood out for me. Again, Victor coming off the bench. Again, I don't see that staying much longer moving forward. Other thing stood out for me, and perhaps the biggest thing, was Dylan Harper. Again, the rookie led the team in scoring for the second straight game, this time finishing with 24 points and 5 rebounds off the bench. He did that in 22 minutes. The slashing ability, the ability to finish at the rim, ability to dunk, just his overall ability, even the defensive end, he stole a couple of balls from the Wizards player. He's coming into form. He's slowly but surely becoming a huge, huge key for this team this season. And speaking of that loss of the Knicks in the Cup Finals, my final takeaway is that they didn't show any kind of letdown, any type of, oh, well, woe is us, kind of vibe. They came out and took care of business. They beat a team that they should beat on paper. The Russians now lost, only won 4 games on the season. And that's what I was worried about. Was it going to be a letdown from Vegas? And there apparently was not whatsoever. Again, the Wizards hung close in that first half, but in the third period, the Spurs blew it open 34-22 and won the fourth quarter 28-19. So again, they took care of a team that they should take care of. They're now 11-2 versus teams with the below 500 record. So once again, proving this is a Spurs team that beats team they should beat. That's a sign of a team that's developing and perhaps one of the better teams in the West, let alone the NBA. This is Jeff Garcia with Locked On Spurs.
Man, the Spurs, they're moving up. They're moving forward. Just 7 losses so far this year. That is, again, just absolutely insane. Next game, y'all, we got the Toronto Raptors versus the Milwaukee Bucks. The Toronto Raptors win 111-105. And for more on this game, we got Sean Woodley with Locked On Raptors.
Are you going to write home to tell your parents about a 6-point win over the Giannis-less Bucks? No, probably not, but the Raptors do get this one over the finish line, 111-105. They very much controlled the lion's share of this game. The Bucks took the lead very briefly in the third quarter, but this did feel like it was in the Raptors' control more or less throughout. And I think the two guys that obviously come to mind as the reasons why the Raptors won this game are the obvious guys who've been the reasons why the Raptors won a lot of games this year. Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and that sort of two-way chemistry they have, where Ingram, whenever things bog down in the offense, you can kind of just get it to him, and he's going to get you something. Hit a lot of tough shots tonight. Also got to the rim a ton tonight. His 29 points mark 4 straight games now at 25 plus for Ingram. He's also absolutely blistering from 3 of late. Banged in a bunch of threes again tonight. He's just been red hot. It's been probably the best 3-point shooting stretch of his career over these last 4 games as well. And then Scotty Barnes, just a cool, efficient 24 points, 11 boards, and of course, 3 stocks, a block and 2 steals for the guy who gets at least 3 stocks seemingly every single time he hits the basketball floor. Raptors didn't get a ton of help from their bench in this game. They were down 2 starters with no RJ Barrett and no Jakob Poeltl. The bench was pretty uneven throughout most of this game, but Ingram, Barnes, more than enough to get them by a not-so-good Bucks team. And Jakob Poeltl thing, getting a little concerning. He missed tonight's game with a back injury. He has missed a lot of games this year with his back injury, and after the Raptors just played 1 game in the previous 9 days, not ideal to see Poeltl have to sit this one out. Going to keep an eye on that one as we head into trade season for sure.
That's an interesting situation. I'm really curious to see how the Raptors continue to fare the rest of the year, because I actually like the Raptors. I think they can be a sleepy playoff team this year.
Absolutely. I think they played some solid basketball. Barnes continues to play at an all-star level. So does Ingram. He's had a phenomenal season. I don't think a lot of people expected much from the Raptors team. I was a little bit more bullish than most, I think, and yet they've exceeded even my expectations. And they look really solid. So I don't know. As they approach the trades deadline, do you think that they're buyers? Do they want to kind of stock up the rest of their roster, shore up any weak spots they might have there because they might see themselves as playoff contenders that can go on an extended run, or is just that kind of mortgage whatever financial flexibility they're trying to retain for the future?
If I was them, I would definitely try to find a different kind of center other than Jakob Poeltl. I think if Scotty Barnes and Brandon had like a true stretch five next to them, Miles Turner being like the high end of that, if they had a player like that, I think they would be even better. Because I think you just need more floor space for Scotty Barnes to be able to work offensively. But y'all, the next game was another great game. The Pelicans beat the Houston Rockets 133-128 in overtime and overcame a huge lead to do so. So with more on that, hey, I got to let my friend Jake tell you the story of how this game went.
Pelicans beat the Houston Rockets in overtime. I'm Jake Madison, host of Locked On Pelicans. This is not the Pelicans team that you saw earlier on in the year under old head coach Willie Green. Now, I'm not going to claim this team is particularly good. They're still pretty bad. But this is a team that has some fight in them. Despite being down 25 points in this game, the old Pelicans would have rolled over, but they fought, and the role players stepped up. Herb Jones defensively, stepping up and shutting down Kevin Durant for parts of the third quarter. Saddiq Bey really stepping up and being the closer for this team in the fourth quarter and overtime. It's worth noting in this game, Zion Williamson came off the bench to start, but did not play a minute in the fourth quarter or overtime. Under interim head coach James Borrego, it seems things are a little bit different for the Pelicans. I don't know if you want to call him a franchise player anymore after something like this. This was a little bit eye-opening, shows things are definitely changing here in New Orleans. For more, check out the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
So on the other side, we got more games to get through. Again, this was a full slate of NBA games tonight, but y'all, there were some bangers tonight. Y'all, we'll have more for you in the third segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is an all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Now, whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. So unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise changes at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools, offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save hours every single week. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. One more time. That's gusto.com/lockedonnba. We'll be back for the final segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night. We are back here for the final segment of Locked On NBA Game Night. We got a few more great games for you all to get through. We got the Dallas Mavericks beating the Detroit Pistons. What a game. What a story. And with more on that, we got Nick Angstack to give you the low.
Mavs never do anything normal. The Pistons never play any normal games, apparently. But Cooper Flag is a special player. In overtime, Mavs get the win. And Cooper Flag, 23 points on 20 shots is not incredible efficiency, but he made the plays that mattered. And that's what sets apart Cooper Flag from anybody else that we've seen lately. He had an ISO floater against Isaiah Stewart on a switch that put the Mavericks down 1 with 52 seconds left in this game. Then with 19 seconds left in this game, he had a pick and roll. Cade on the switch against him, pull up, jumper, put the Mavs up by 1. Massive, massive play. That ended up being the play that got the Mavs to overtime, basically. And then in overtime, he didn't score, but he had 2 plays to set up Anthony Davis for dunks, and the Mavs were able to score just enough points, 6, to get them to win in overtime. Anthony Davis returns to this one, 15 points, 14 boards, 2 assists, 3 blocks, 7 of 18 from the field, also not super great, under 40%, but he's a good NBA player. I don't know that he's looking like a max player right now in his first game back. Maybe you don't expect him to, but he's a good, effective NBA player. He's helping the Mavericks win games. +6 in this one, played 37 minutes in his first game back from injury and illness. And Anthony Davis, still in the Dallas Mavericks.
Hey, don't look now, but the Mavericks, they continue to climb up the board. They look good, man. Like, again, especially getting Ryan Nembhard. Like, I think they should be highly encouraged about what's happening down there. But also the Denver Nuggets, they beat the Orlando Magic 126-115. And David, when I tell you Jamal Murray, they went on a 32-7 run with 6 minutes and 52 seconds left in the second quarter. Now, let me explain this, David. They were down 14 points. Jokic goes back in the game. Jalen Pickett off the bench. The 11th man comes into the game. They go on a 32-7 run, and Jamal Murray, 20 points and 5 threes in the quarter. That quarter basically won them the game. Paolo Banchero with a triple-double. Nikola Jokic with a triple-double. The Nuggets, they moved to 20-6, maintaining the second-best record in the Western Conference.
Yeah, the Nuggets look phenomenal. Obviously, I think I have them in the top tier. Clearly not just in the Western Conference, but in the league in general. But I look over at that Orlando side, and it seems like their fortunes are tied to whether or not Desmond Bane is going to have a productive night. The experiment hasn't worked out as well as a lot of Magic fans had hoped. He still has his inconsistent shooting nights, and tonight he struggled from the floor as well, especially when they're already missing Franz Wagner. There's not much they can do there. They're still looking for ways of juicing an offense that has looked pretty anemic at times.
Yeah. But there was another great game after that, y'all. Golden State versus Phoenix. And Phoenix wins 99-98. And I could not believe they pulled that game out, y'all. For more, we got Locked On Warriors. Chuck, how'd tonight go?
Man, lately it had felt like the only way the Warriors were going to get a win is if Steph Curry went for like 52 in a game. Because 48 had not been enough against some, pedestrian basketball teams. The Suns better than pedestrian. However, Steph Curry was not able to really do much of anything in the game today. He finished 3 of 14 for 15 points. Jimmy Butler picked up the slack, though. It's why you're paying him all this money. Butler had 31. Podziemski had 18. It kept the Warriors in it. And funny enough, it was actually offensive rebounds that I thought really gave the Warriors a chance to win this game. And that's what did them in. It was a Phoenix Suns offensive rebound in the final seconds. Jordan Goodwin sinks 1 and 2 free throws after getting fouled with 0.4 left in the game off a Dylan Brooks miss, and 99-98, that's all she wrote. You gotta hate when a game ends with 0.4 seconds on a missed shot, on a play that wasn't reviewed, that was dicey. I don't know. We'll have to take another look at it, check the tape, go to the 2-minute call, and break it down with Mike Loganoff on Locked On Warriors.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. The Warriors are obviously struggling. I did not expect it to be like this for them in this regular season. But the Lakers, man, they got a win versus Utah. Now, this win was a little bit closer than I know a lot of Lakers fans felt like it should have been. But with more from Locked On Lakers, we got Andy Kamenetsky.
This is Andy Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast. The Lakers get a 143-135 win in Utah over the Jazz. No Austin Reeves, no DeAndre Ayton, no Gabe Vincent, and for the first 3 quarters, no effort whatsoever defensively. The Lakers were losing or ignoring shooters all night. They were either getting lost or disinterested. Off ball, it was just an absolute mess. But in the fourth quarter, the intensity did pick up. Marcus Smart hit 3 very key 3-pointers before eventually fouling out, and the foundation of a 45-point, 11-rebound, 14-assist triple-double for Luka Doncic, plus 5 assists, and 28 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists from from LeBron James was enough to win, if not necessarily inspire. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, man, the Lakers, they handle business. They get a win in Utah. They continue to hold serve in the Western Conference. But, y'all, the game that David and I were texting about at the end of the night was like, are the Kings and Portland Trailblazers going to do it? And, yes, they did. 133-134. Portland gets the win. And, David, I thought the game was over. DeMar DeRozan hits another clutch game-winning shot and then free throws in the game.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Big game from him at the end there, as he's been wanting to do over his career, obviously hitting those big shots. So not quite the game winner, but ties it up and to send it into overtime. And then from that point, it was a pretty even affair. Portland finds a way to win it, gets a foul call at the end there. They hit the free throws, and they're able to hang on to a win. which it should not have been this close. That game was a blowout, and we were counting down the seconds so we could start recording, waiting for this game to end. And then DeRozan ruins our nightly plans by hitting those big shots.
Yeah, DeRozan, crazy corner three. Shout out to Russell Westbrook, by the way, and shout out to the rookie Renaud. He had 29 points and 11 rebounds. Russell Westbrook, 20 points and 10 assists in this game. Super efficient as well, 8 of 11 from the field. So the Kings, they just cannot seem to get right. The Portland Trailblazers, they get another win. They're 11-16. They stay in contention to be in the play-in to try to make the playoffs this year. So David, we had 12 games tonight, and thank you so much for all of our great folks that are covering the team, making these shorts. That way the audience can get all the information on the games that they need so they can learn as much about their teams as they can. David, this was a great night of NBA basketball.
Absolutely. A lot of games down to the wire, a couple overtime games, a lot of fun, and really enjoyed talking about it all with you.
Man, look, it's been fun, y'all. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review everywhere that you listen to this podcast on this audio platform. Y'all know what time it is. The #1 sports podcast network. You know what it is. This is Locked On NBA Game Night. See you on the other side.